Big hello to all of you. How are you now? I mean, the exam is just a stone's throw away. Are you okay? Well, I'm back with a very interesting and a very, very important topic in your English section. This topic will help you secure good chunk of marks. So let's just get started. Well, this one is called Reading Comprehension passage. Now, see, you know that you will definitely get at least one question based on reading comprehension passage, and there will be, say, at least two to three questions, MCQ based questions. So, you have to get those marks to secure that position that you need to clear the sentence test. So, what exactly do we need to do to clear, I mean, to score these marks? That's what the session is all about. Well, see, it is not difficult. First of all, tell yourself you can handle it. There's nothing that you cannot do. It is easy. And you're equipped with strategies. So, reading comprehension passage, trust me, students, is nothing more than cheating. The passage is there. The questions are based on the passage. Just read the passage, get the answer, score those marks. How difficult can that be? It won't be difficult. See, understand some strategies and focus on those strategies as you try to mark your answers. Hello. And you will get the short marks that you need. Okay. So let's just see. Very few strategies, people, very few strategies. Just understand them and it'll be a piece of cake. So when you have the passage in front of you, quickly don't try to read word for word. Don't try to focus on every word of the passage. Just skim the passage as in read it at a glance. The idea is that you have a general idea as to what you're reading about. You don't have to understand the meaning of all the words that are written in the passage. So skim it as in read it at a glance. And then, yeah, keep marking the important words. Now, anything can be important. Maybe a date can be important. Maybe a name can be important. The determiners, such as, say, the, or many, or most, these things can be important because they'll change the sentence, they'll change the thought around. Connectors can be important. That so keep marking the important words. So, but all in all, just try and understand what is the central idea. What is the passage all about? That is all you need to understand. If at all there are more than two paragraphs, focus on the gist of each paragraph. Now, apart from that, I mean, when you're doing this, when you're skimming and you're scanning, that is marking the keywords, focus on the first line of each paragraph, just in case there are more than one paragraphs. So the first line will introduce a thought to you. So you will know what you're about to read, so you'll have a very good clarity. And then when you come to the part where you have to read the question, just read the question carefully. Because when we say, if you don't read the question carefully, there is a possibility that you might miss an important instruction. And if you don't follow the question correctly, how can you expect to solve it correctly, right? So understand the question before you start marking your answers. Now, marking the answer is also very simple. So you've already read the passage, you have marked the keywords. Now, when you read the question and you look at the options, you have a very good idea as to where approximately you expect to find the answer. So directly go to that line. This is where scanning will help you. So jump from keyword to keyword, see where answer is, and try to mark the answer. Say, read the line carefully, and I'm sure you will get the answer. Okay. So that is what reading comprehension passage is all about. It's about accuracy. It's about, say, your awareness. Okay. And one more thing, students, the answers should come from the passage, not from your understanding of the topic. So, if at all you know something, but it's not there in the passage, option it's there as one of the options, that will not be the answer. The answers will come from the passage, not from your understanding of the passage. All right, keep that in mind. So now I guess let's just apply the strategies and see how we fare in this one. All right, so let's just get started. The first passage is on your screen, a very short passage. That is how you expect to see the questions in the DUJAT paper. The passage will not be long, the passage will be short, but the answers will be close. So you will have to say, understand what's going on in here. So let's just read the passage and let's understand the meaning of the passage first, okay? So this one is about books. So this says, I'll read that quickly for you. Books are by far the most lasting product of human effort. Temples crumble into ruin, pictures and status decay, statues decay. but books survive. Time does not destroy the great thoughts which are as fresh today as when they were first passed through the author's mind. These thoughts speak to us through the printed pages. The only effect of time has been allowed to throw out of currency the bad product. Nothing in literature which is not good can live for long. Good books have always helped man in various spheres of life. No wonder that the world keeps its books with great care. So this one is a very, very short passage, but it's a beautiful one that talks about the books that are everlasting because they have helped us in various spheres of life, and that is one reason why world wants to preserve the books. So they say the temples can crumble, the pictures and statues can decay, but the books will stay. And say when you read a book, the idea that was as fresh as when it passed through the writer's mind, and when you're reading it as a reader, the idea stays as fresh as it was back then. So that's the beauty of I mean, that's a beautiful passage. Now let's look at the first question. This says, time does not destroy books because they contain, well, useful material, subject matter for education, great ideas, high ideas. What do you think is the answer? Let us go back to the line that talks about that time can or cannot destroy books. And I'm sure we'll get the answer there. So let's just see. Now, see, this line, time does not destroy great thoughts. So, time does not destroy great thoughts which are as fresh today as when they first passed through the author's mind. So, what can time not destroy? Great thoughts that are now a part of the book that you're reading. So, time does not destroy books because they contain, well, useful material, subject matter for education, high ideas, or great ideas. See, the options are really close, but are they mentioned in the passage? I mean, does the passage talk about useful material or it talks about great ideas? See, it does not talk about subject matter for education. It does not talk about education at all. It just talks about great ideas, and it doesn't talk about high ideas. Great ideas, very different from high ideas. So the answer here is great ideas. The next question now. To throw out of currency means to, well, does it mean destroy, extinguish, forget, put out of use? What does this mean? Let's go to the part that says to throw out of currency here in the passage, and let's try and understand what that means. Okay. Now, the part that talks about this expression is this. The only effect of time has been to throw out of currency the bad products. So, what did time do? Time only threw out of currency. Yes, it kind of kept things aside, anything that was bad. Now, say there's something else to the effect. This is nothing in literature which is not good, cannot live for long. Now, let's see. Does it mean destroy? Well, it does not destroy anything, it just puts it aside. So, you don't want it, keep it aside, don't use it. It doesn't destroy it. Extinguish? Well, fire can be extinguished, ideas cannot be extinguished. Forget or put out of use? Well, the most appropriate expression that conveys the idea as given in the passage is put out of use, that is, put them aside until they are required for further use. The next question says, the world keeps its books with care because, well, they educate us, they bring great ideas to us, they've helped us in various spheres of life, they make us successful. Well, if you think about it, all the options that are there are true one way or the other. But are they mentioned in the passage? Well, our answer should come from the passage. So we have to understand which expression out of these four was there in the passage, and that expression, only that expression, will be our answer. So let's just see. So, good books have always helped man in various spheres of life. No wonder that the world keeps its books with great care. So, why do the world keeps the books with great care? Because it has helped us in various spheres of life. So, the answer comes from the passage. So, agree that the books educate us, they bring great ideas to us, and they really make us successful. There is no, I mean, you can't even doubt the fact. But were they mentioned in the passage? No. And if they are not mentioned in the passage, they can never be an answer to a question that comes from a reading comprehension passage-based question. So here, the answer would be C, that is, they help us in various spheres of life. Now, this was one short and a little easy passage. Now, let's look at a slightly longer and a slightly more complicated passage. Yes, that's absolutely right, Niharika. Now, let's look at the. Oh, there's another question. Which of the following is not related to the given passage? Well, great thoughts are destroyed, temples crumble into ruin, pictures in status, statues decay, books survive. Which is not related to the given passage. Try and get the answer for this one. The answer should come from the passage. Is it great thoughts are destroyed, temples crumble into ruin, pictures and statues decay, or books survive? What is not related to the passage? Let's just see what you have to say. Well, see, what's given in the passage is this: temples crumble into ruin, pictures and statues decay, but books survive. So everything is related to the given passage, and what is not related? Great thoughts are destroyed because it says absolutely right. Great thoughts, I mean, whether they are destroyed or not destroyed, that is not categorically mentioned here in the passage. So that is the only one absolutely right. Yeah. So this is the one that is not related to the passage, and therefore that is the right answer to this question. Now, I guess let's move on to another passage which is slightly bigger, slightly. Oh, my bad, there's another question. Of the products of human effort, books are the most. Oh, the answer is right here. Well, it says lasting product of human effort. So the answer here, though the books are enjoyable, though they are useful and very important as well, but since the answer has to come from the passage, the answer would be permanent. Lasting, which means permanent. Finally, we move on to another passage. I've highlighted some keywords for you, but then I want you to read the passage on your own and then we'll discuss it together. It's right behind me on the screen. So take a minute, read the passage. And then first we'll understand the crux of the passage before we move on to the questions, all right? Yeah, I hope you've read the passage. So let's look at the gist of each paragraph and the entire paragraph on the whole, and then we'll look at the questions because that is, trust me, the right strategy to handle any given reading comprehension passage. So the question, I mean, the passages talk about mountaineering is now looked upon as king of sports. Now, see, I told you the first line of each paragraph is a very important line that will actually introduce a lot of things to you. Now, even before I read the rest of the paragraph, I know that whatever I'm about to read will be very positive in nature about mountaineering. Now, see, it says that say mountaineering is king of sports, but then when the people who already live on the mountains, they, for you and I, we might have, I mean, we might go there for thrill or for adventure or for success or for money or for other things. But the people who have lived there already all their lives, they frequent these difficult terrains because that has been a part of their everyday life. Now, some peaks are easily accessible, whereas there are some which are very difficult to conquer. Now, popular interest increased when the alpine peak of Matterhorn in 1965 was conquered, and Edward Whymper's dramatic account of the climb, and then his fatal accident while he was descending from the mountain. And there's one more thing that is noteworthy here in this one is that uh, modern mountaineers, they want to say do the they want to climb or conquer the summit of the mountain because they, for greater enjoyment of sport. Whereas the early climbers looked for the easiest ones, and all they thought of was, oh, I have to summit, I have to reach the mountain top. That is the goal of my life. Whereas the mountaineers today, they pursue this for the enjoyment, and they're not really bothered about conquering or, say, reaching the summit. They are more into the thrill and the adventure that the sport offers. Now, that is what the first paragraph is about. In the risky sport of mountaineering, element of competition between either individuals or teams is totally absent. Now see, again, the first line is such a broad statement that introduces the reader or to you or me to the concept. Now this says that mountaineering, there is this risky element in mountaineering because and there is no competition between the people. There are, say, even if three teams are trying to reach the mountaintop. They are not competing amongst one another because this sport itself, now this ascent itself is so difficult that until unless they work as a team, they will not be able to make it. So here in this particular sport, the mutual, say, working or say, helping each other is more important than trying to say it's a team sport. You cannot just go alone and try to be a winner. You would need the help of your, say, teammates to conquer this one. So it says that the competition is not between the teams, but the peaks themselves. So it is between you, man, and nature, man and the mountain. That's what the competition is about. Now, mountaineering can be dangerous unless reasonable precautions are taken. Now, see, this line introduces you to the dangers that are there until and unless you are a careful climber. Now I told you, however, being a connector is a very important keyword because it turns a sentence around. Now, see, the first line said that it can be dangerous if you're not cautious, but then they written however, which means that you're about to read something that contradicts the first line. Majority of fatal accidents happen to parties which are inexperienced or not properly equipped. So they are saying that you have to be cautious when you're climbing a mountain, but what really happens is that fatal accidents happen only when you are inexperienced or you're not rightly prepared for the ascent. Now they talk about so many accidents are caused by bad weather. The safe climber is a man who knows when it is time to turn back, however tempting it may be to press on and try to reach the summit. So now a word, see, the writer is say, closing with the word of caution. He says, see, the climber, the safe climber will be the one who would know when to return, even if he is a few steps away from the summit. The safe climber, the one who will say climb down safely, will be the one who will know when to proceed and when to retreat, when to advance and when to retreat. So that is what the passage is all about. So if I were to summarize this, the first paragraph only talks about mountaineering as a sport nowadays. It has made a slight comparison with the past. Then it talks about the say that it's not exactly easy and it is not a competition between teams, but man and nature. And the last paragraph is a word of caution. So this is how you try to summarize each and every paragraph. And even if there are words that you did not understand, that's okay. Getting the gist of the paragraph, each paragraph, is more important than trying to focus on each and every word that might be there in the passage. Now, let's look at the questions. So, the first question is Mountaineering is different from other sports because now see, the answers are really close. Say it can be fatal, it's risky and dangerous, it's most thrilling and exciting, and there is no competition between individuals. None of the above. So, what do you think makes it different from other sports? Now, mind it, no other sport has categorically been mentioned here in the passage. So, this question is an inference based question where you will have to understand what is being, say, what the writer intended to say when he wrote this passage for you to read. So is it different from other sports because it can be fatal? Can it be because it's risky and dangerous? Because that is the case. It's thrilling and exciting, and there is no competition between individuals. Is this what makes it different from the other sports? Or none of the reasons mentioned here are the right reasons for which you could say that no, it's not. I mean, it's different from the other sports. So, what do you think is the answer? And all the options are really close. Most of them are mentioned in the passage. It's for you to decide what do you think can be the right answer for this one. Well, to get the answer together, see, I've highlighted certain parts of the passage because, like I told you initially, that this is an inference-based question, and the answer, I mean, in the inference-based questions, the answers are not explicitly stated in the passage. You have to read between the lines and you have to understand what the writer meant to say when he, say, wrote these lines, and then you will get the answer. Now, see, it it does say that it is fatal. It says that it's risky and dangerous, but then it also states that it's thrilling and exciting, and there is no competition between individuals. Now, why C is the most appropriate answer? Because C, generally speaking, let's look at this one. For this part, that it's thrilling and exciting is mentioned in so many words. Say, the modern mountaineers prefer difficult routes for greater enjoyment of sport. So, one, why do people prefer this sport? Because it's thrilling and exciting. And how is it different from the other sports? See, generally, when a sport is conducted, the teams they compete against each other. That is the case in any sport that you can think of. Whereas this is the only sport where the teams have to they jointly work together in order to reach the summit and climb down safely. So here there is no competition between the individuals, it's between man and nature. That's what makes this sport very, very different from any other sport known to us. And the highlighted lines emphasize the same fact, right? Now, let's look at the next question, which is people living in Andes and Himalayas made mountain journeys because, well, they lived in prehistoric times of the challenge offered by the difficult journey. It's a kind of sport they had to undertake them in their everyday life. Now, see, the question says that people who live there, they made the mountain. See, you and I go there for sport, for adventure, for name, for fame. But why do these people go there? That is what the question is about. And we have read this. It's a direct question, and the answer is there in the passage. Just that we need to identify which part of the passage had the answer. So let's just see. Now, see here itself in the first part, it says, men have lived amongst mountains since prehistoric times and in some part of the world, as in the Andes and the Himalayas. Most difficult mountain journeys have inevitably been a part of their everyday life. So since they live there, going back and forth to these places is a part of their life. The way you go back and forth to your school or college, they go back and forth to the mountains. So it's as simple as that for them, which is very clearly stated in the passage. So that makes option D the most appropriate answer choice. Also, you can see that the other 3 points will be very safely eliminated. See, they lived in prehistoric times. The writer did use the word prehistoric times. Man have lived, but men have lived there since prehistoric times. But that doesn't really justify why they journeyed to these places. Now, of the challenge offered by the difficult journey, that's not even stated in the passage, so you can easily and safely eliminate it. It was a kind of sport. Well, not to these people. They lived there, so they had to go back and forth time and again. So that makes option D the most appropriate answer choice. Now let's look at the next question. Now, mountaineers climb as team because, well, again, looks like an easy question. We just got lucky. There's no competition between them. The competition between team and the peak, the height is too much for one individual. They have to rely on each other for safety. The question may seem easy, but the answer choices are slightly close. So you'll have to decide very prudently, I'd say, before you eliminate any answer choice and select your answer. See, so why do they work as a team? Is it because there's no competition? It is stated in the passage. The competition is between team and the peak. Well, it's also stated in the passage. The height is too much for one individual. Well, this I guess you can safely eliminate. They have to rely on each other for safety. Well, the answer should come from the passage. So let's go back to the part where this part was mentioned, this expression was mentioned. So, the individuals making up a party must climb together as a team, for they depend upon each other for their safety. So, it's directly mentioned. That's how you get your answer. See, students, whatever the question is, scan the passage for the keyword. Now, the keyword here was climbing as a team. Now, see, they climb together as a team. That was the keyword that brought me to this part of the passage. And then when you read that part a little carefully, you always get the right answer, and you would know. I mean, no matter how close the other options are, you will be able to figure out the right answer for yourself. All right, so stick to that. Now let's look at the next question. The summit was the prize they all set their eyes on. In this context, the context of this passage means, well, they keep their eyes steadily on reaching the peak. Reaching the top was their exclusive concern. They chose a route from which they could see the summit clearly. They cared nothing but the prize of reaching the summit. Now, the options are awfully close. They're deceptively close. So, you really need to understand this part to get your answer right. Now, see, let's go back to the line that talks about this expression and then we'll try and ascertain what the answer is. Okay? Now, see. The early climbers looked for. Now, this said that the modern climbers prefer difficult routes for enjoyment, whereas the early climbers looked for the easiest routes because, which means because here, the summit was the prize they all set their eyes on. So, what was this? What does this expression mean here? You have to understand this one before you answer this. See, they kept their eyes steadily on reaching the peak. They did not keep their eyes steadily on the peak, and I'm sure there were days when they could not even see the peak. So, this is a clear distortion. You can eliminate it. Reaching the top was their exclusive concern. Well, see, reaching the top was the prize that they needed. That was the only thing that they aspired. They chose a route from which they could see the summit clearly. Well, that is one option that, just like the first one, can be very easily eliminated. It's a distortion. Then they cared for nothing but the prize of reaching the summit. Now, well, this one, as you can clearly see, that is a clear distortion, and you have a very clear answer choice here. That what did they say when they started their ascent? What was it that they had there on their mind? Reaching the top. That's it. The summit, the top. That was all that was there on their mind when they started their ascent. When any mountaineer started his ascent. So that makes B the most appropriate answer choice. Okay, there's another question. This says to press on in the last sentence means. Now, see, I guess we read this here. However tempting it may be to press on and try to reach the summit. Now, does it mean force upon others, to struggle in a forceful manner, to continue in a determined manner, to work fearlessly? Well, here the line says that since many accidents are caused by bad weather, the safe climber is the one who knows when it is time to turn back, however tempting it may be to press on and try to reach the summit. So, what does this mean? Are we forcing others? Are we struggling in a forceful manner? Are we continuing in a determined manner? Or are we working fearlessly? The options are closed. Well, what is the answer? Well, here Pressing on simply means you try to continue in a determined manner. So you know that maybe the summit is maybe just a kilometer or half a kilometer or three steps away, but the weather is changing, and you know that if you know that it is time to turn back, you would not be tempted to press on, to move ahead, to continue in a determined manner and try to reach the summit, because if you're a safe climber, you would turn back. Else, what are they saying? When do the casualties happen? When you're inexperienced or not properly equipped. So the experienced one, the safe one, would know when to turn back and not continue in a determined manner. So that's what makes option C the most appropriate answer choice. Now, let's discuss the last passage, which is the villager has customarily been very conservative in his attitude and approach. He is reluctant to change his traditional way of thinking and doing things. His attitude, in many respects, is homemade is best. For instance, most cattle farmers in the villages prefer to feed their cows and buffaloes with home mix comprising of oilseed cakes like mustard or cottonseed, pulses, jaggery, salt, etc. It takes numerous visits, hard convincing, daily trials, and experiments to convince the rural cattle farmer that compound feeds, scientifically formulated, improve the yields of milk without any incremental cost. Now, what does the first paragraph talk about? It says that the villager has customarily been conservative in his attitude and approach. What does the first line convey? It says that whatever we are about to read will be about a villager, a typical villager who has customarily, by say innate nature, been conservative, that is very rigid or fixed in his attitude. He's not flexible at all. Now, see, what do the next line suggest? He's reluctant to change his traditional way. His attitude is homemade is the best. So he doesn't even want to try anything new. And it takes numerous visits, hard convincing, daily trials, and experiments to convince the rural cattle farmer that compound feeds, scientifically formulated, they improve. So he prefers sticking to what he knows best, and he doesn't want to change. So that's what makes him very conservative in his approach. Now let's read the second paragraph. The old age values and attitudes towards caste, creed, women, time and money take time to change. Now the writer is trying to give the why of the passage. The villager has traditionally been a believer in the philosophy of karma and fate. He has found it more convenient to blame his economic destitution, poor living conditions, straitened social status on bhagya, karma, or fate. The security that the villagers find in status quo. Hello, Kajal. Uh, The security that the villagers find in the status quo act as a disincentive to change and experiment in the short run. Many of these antiquated attitudes, value systems, and outlooks are changing due to improved levels of awareness and education. However, the rate of change is sluggish. That have fossilized over the centuries do take time to change. Now, see, the writer is trying to tell you why he's so reluctant. So because one, he says that old age values and attitudes take time to change. Then he says he's a believer in the philosophy of karma or fate. So if something goes wrong, he blames. So, I mean, if he says, okay, I'm poor and bad things are happening to me, what does he say? My bhagya, my karma, my fate, my God not listening to me. So very easy to say, okay, मेरे भाग्य की वजह से मेरे साथ ऐसा हो रहा है, instead of saying मैंने नहीं किया. So they say मेरे भाग्य में ऐसा लिखा था, इसीलिए मेरे साथ बुरा हो गया. So they don't want to change, they don't want to adapt the new technology, and then when things don't happen the way they desire them to happen, they blame, say, the karma. The security that the villagers find in status quo. Now, status quo simply means the existing state of affairs. So, whatever is happening around him, that's his status quo, act as disincentive to change and experiment in the short run. So, the security that they get, so whatever is existing state of affairs around them, that is their security, and they don't want to change even in the say short run. Many of these antiquated attitudes are changing. But now they're saying that these antiquated attitudes, जो पुराने ancient सोचने का तरीका, value system या outlook था, अब वो बदल रहा है due to improved levels of awareness and education. And why is it changing? Because of awareness and education. However, turns the sentence around. The rate of change is sluggish. So the writer says there is a change, we can witness a change, but the change is slow, it's sluggish. And these have been fossilized over centuries, so they will take time to change. That's what he wrote in the first line, that these things, they're so deep rooted that they won't change overnight. So, for a radical change to happen, people will have to be more patient. So, that's what the passage is all about. Now, let's look at the questions. Now, the question says, when will you call a person conservative in his attitude and approach? So, when would you call a person conservative? Did we mark this part? Well, see, he has been conservative in his attitude and approach. So, we know that the answer is here. Now, let's quickly read the options and see if we can figure out the answer. When he would like to try out every new idea before accepting it, when he sticks to old ways of thinking and doing, when he solves his problems through tried out methods, when he imputes motives to change agents. So when he attributes, I'll write it here. Now, what really happens? So, when would you call him conservative? When he, say, attributes his motives to change agents because he says this is why this happened. When you then you call him conservative. Well, if he solves his problem through tried out methods, will you call him conservative? No, this one can be safely eliminated. Now, he sticks to old ways of thinking and doing. Well, this looks good. That is who a conservative is. Somebody who doesn't want to change. So looks like a good option when he would like to try out every new idea before accepting it. Well, if he wanted to try out every new idea before accepting it, would you call him conservative? Well, let's try and figure out the answer together. See, had he tried to at least give it a shot, he wouldn't have been called conservative. Conservative is somebody who sticks to his norms, his way of life, and he doesn't want to change. So he's very comfortable in his comfort zone. Even if that comfort zone has made him miserable, he's comfortable there. He feels safe in his cocoon. So then it's then when you call somebody conservative. See, Villager has customarily been conservative in his attitude and approach. He's reluctant to change his traditional way of thinking and doing things. Absolutely right. Yes. The answer would be B. Now let's see. What does the phrase homemade is best imply? Now, you might have to understand the meaning of the passage to get this answer right. It may not be a direct question. So, we read about homemade is best here. Now, let's look at the answer choices. Whatever being practiced is better than what is new. So, they're saying that if at all I'm doing X right now, that is better than Y. That may be whatever it is. I'm not even willing to take a look at it. I think my X is better than the Y that you're offering me. Best should not be discarded. Change for the sake of change is not good. People should go in for Swadeshi because it is homemade. Now, is this what we are talking about? That uh, people should go in for Swadeshi because it is homemade? We better read that line together to get the answer. So he says he's reluctant to change his traditional way of thinking and doing things. His attitude in many respects is homemade is best. So वो कहता है कि भाई जो घर का है वो सबसे अच्छा है और वो चेंज नहीं करना चाहता अपना ट्रेडिशनल वे. अब देखिए जो हो रहा है वो नए से बेहतर है. अच्छी चीज को डिस्कार्ड नहीं करना चाहिए. आई थिंक इसको तो हम डिस्कार्ड कर सकते हैं बिकॉज इट इज नॉट इवन क्लोज. चेंज फॉर द सेक ऑफ चेंज इज नॉट गुड. भाई बदलने के लिए बदलना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. दैट इज व्हाट दिस मीन्स. या लोगों को स्वदेशी इसलिए चूज करना चाहिए क्योंकि वो घर का बना हुआ होता है. व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज द आंसर टू दिस क्वेश्चन? विल सी. अगेन, whatever is being practiced is better than what is new. Like I told you, here in DUJAT, the questions will be simple, the passage will be simple, but the answers would be very close, and you will have to understand the say crux to get the answer right. Now here, this one is an implied answer. You'll have to actually, this is implicitly stated. एंड क्या बोला उन्होंने कि वो क्यों बोलता है कि घर का सबसे अच्छा है, क्योंकि वो बदलना नहीं चाहता, वो देखना भी नहीं चाहता कि नया क्या है ऑफर होने के लिए. सो वो कह रहा है जो है वो सबसे अच्छा है. एक ये है. बेस्ट शुड बी डिस्कार्डेड, ये तो लाइन ही डिस्कार्ड हो सकती है बिकॉज इट्स नॉट इवन क्लोज. Change for the sake of change is not good. Could have been a possible answer. People should go in for Swadeshi because it's homemade. This is not what he is meaning to say. वो स्वदेशी की बात नहीं कर रहा है, वो ये कह रहा है जो मैं करता आ रहा हूँ वो अच्छा है. Okay. Now, option A is a far better answer choice than option C. The reason being, it talks about very, very categorically that the man, the villager, is reluctant to change his traditional way. That means जो मैं कर रहा हूँ वो ठीक है, बदलने की जरूरत क्या है? That's his idea. Now let's look at the next question. What is the best method to convince the average Indian villager about superiority of a new cattle feed? भाई नई cattle feed की superiority के लिए एक average Indian villager को convince करने का सबसे अच्छा तरीका क्या है? Now see, let's go back to the part that talked about all this, and I guess it's here. It takes numerous visits, hard convincing, daily trials and experiments to convince the rural cattle feed farmer that compound feeds, scientifically formulated, improve the yield of milk without any incremental cost. Now, let's look at the answer choices. Home visits, field demonstration, discussion, distribution of literature. Well, did the passage talk about distributing any form of book or literature? It did not. So, this option can be very safely eliminated because we've read that line. It did not talk about distributing any sort of literature. So, now you're left with three choices, and all three of them look really close. So, is it home visit? It says numerous visits. But does it say home visit? Maybe they visited the farmer when he was in his field. So this one is a broad topic, whereas this one is very narrow. It only talks about home visits. So this one, though looks tempting, is the wrong answer choice. We'll eliminate it. Hard convincing and daily trials and experiments. Now, hard convincing sounds like discussion, but is it really discussion? Now, discussion is that you and I are talking about the weather and we are just putting forth our views and we are sharing our opinions together. That could be one form of discussion. So, you say X, I say Y, and we both laugh about it. Whereas this one says hard convincing. So, is it really same as discussion? Hard convincing, is hard convincing equal to discussion? Slide, I guess hard convincing is an intensity higher than just discussion, right? So looks tempting, but not exactly the right answer choice. Now we are left with B, which is field demonstration. Let's just see how viable this option is. Though that's the only one left, so let's see. We'll still find out. The field demonstration means that something that cannot be done, say, inside, say, the compound of anything, inside the house. Maybe it's done practically. So, daily trials and experiments, what does it look? Did they go inside the house of the farmer to show him that this is good or this is bad? See, to convince. So, daily trials and experiments. Where do you think daily trials and experiments for a farmer are done? In his field, in his farm, right? So, that compound feeds scientifically formulated improve yield of milk without any incremental cost. So, what is a good answer choice here? The best answer choice here, see, has to be field demonstration. Because though the others look very close, they can clearly be eliminated and you have a clear cut answer. And the strategies help you find that. Now, let's look at the next question. Which of the following is not the usual reason offered by an Indian villager for his poverty? Now, this one I believe is a direct answer. It is his destiny. It is because of his resistance to new ideas. It's God's will, and it is a result of some bad deeds committed in this or previous birth. Now, the question very clearly says not the usual reason offered by the farmer. Well, this one, like I said, is a direct question because he did offer the other thing. See here. So he believed in the philosophy of karma or fate. That means karma is what if you do bad, you get bad, right? So it's a vicious circle. So what goes around comes around in this birth or previous birth. So that's karma. He finds it more convenient to blame his this thing on bhagya, karma, or fate. Now, what's bhagya? God's will. So he stated that it's his destiny, that's his fate, very clearly stated. So, what is not the usual reason? That he is resistant to new ideas. That is one thing that he doesn't state because he doesn't believe that, and it's very clearly not stated in the passage. So, that is your right answer choice. Now, students, with this, I come to the end of this session. I hope you were able to gain something. I hope the strategies will help you get the answers in the exam. And in the next session, I will talk about loads of vocabulary. So don't forget to join the session and learn as we have fun in the class. And all the very best for your exam. Do tune in. Send your comments if you have anything that you would like to share or ask or discuss. We would love to answer your questions. And I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.